Hello everybody, Lee Povey from Maximise Your Potential here, and today I want to talk about the difference between an expectation and an agreement. Now, often we get these things confused, and when we get these things confused, it can lead to kind of frustration and especially resentment, because we think we've made an agreement with somebody. We think they understand where we're coming from. We think that they understand what we need from them, yet we haven't. And it's easy to tell ourselves some stories in our head and kind of make up the reasons why they haven't done what we thought they were going to do, yet we haven't actually been clear enough with them, and we haven't especially got their agreement to it. So what is the difference between an expectation and agreement? An expectation is a way that we think somebody's going to behave. It's a task that we think they're going to do, whereas an agreement is something we have clearly agreed with them, where they have either verbally or in writing committed to this agreement and said yes. And there's a good distinction between the two. Often in society, in the workplace, we have assumptions about how people are going to behave, yet we haven't actually clearly laid those out. So we haven't laid them out in a code of conduct for our business, or we haven't discussed them as managers and leaders with our staff. We just presume, we presume that people are going to wear certain things to work. We presume that they're going to wear a shirt and a tie for the men, or and we have this expectation that we think everybody else understands, yet we haven't clearly agreed that. And if you're finding yourself feeling resentful for another, thinking, why haven't they done this thing that we said we were going to do, I really strongly urge you to go back and check, did you get a clear agreement? And a clear agreement is a yes, I agreed to do that. It includes usually a date and a time. I agreed to do this by such and such a day, such and such a time, or I agreed to do this in a particular way. And a really important part of holding people to agreements is accountability. So how do we hold somebody accountable? Do we have regular meetings where we kind of discuss the work that we've been doing, and you had this task, have you done this task? And we go through our task list and check that things have been ticked off. And when we're making an agreement, it's absolutely vital, I can't stress this enough, that we get a yes, a wholehearted yes. Jim Dethmer of the Conscious Leadership Group calls this a whole body yes. This is that response of, yes, I'm in, I agree to do this. And we can often sense when somebody is kind of placating us and not giving us a wholehearted yes. And they're kind of nodding their head, but they're not saying, yes, I agree to do that. And that's where these expectations and these boundaries can blur, and where as leaders, it's really important that we stop in that moment and we check in and we say, is this a wholehearted yes? If it isn't, let's talk about why it isn't, and let's see if we need to renegotiate this. And that's the thing about agreements. Agreements can be renegotiated. You can come back and you say, I was a yes to this, and now I'm not a yes to this. I would like to renegotiate this agreement. Obviously, sometimes at work, there's just some things we have to do. There's some standards that we have for working in particular organizations, and be that dress codes, be that timekeeping, these things are standards of the organization. And again, we need to make sure that people actually agree to those. Is there a code of conduct that they've read and signed, and we've got a verbal agreement from them after the code of conduct, as opposed to just sending a code of conduct out and expecting that somebody has read that code of conduct. When we do our business coaching sessions, one of the first things we do is, in the first session, we go through the agreements that we make between each other. So we go through the agreements on the timekeeping for the sessions. We go through the agreements on what you can expect from us and what we will agree to as to, say, our response to email. And just so that we're really clear about what the coaching session is for, what our level of availability to you is, how much these sessions are going to cost, so that you know where you stand, we know where we stand, and we can tell you, what we require from you to do these coaching sessions with you. So if you're finding in life that, you have some resentments towards romantic partners, friends, colleagues at work, I strongly urge you to check into, did you make an agreement with them? If you didn't, then it's time to make that agreement. We can make these agreements anytime. Don't assume just because you've had an expectation that's gone on for a period of time that you can't go back and turn that into a concrete and clear agreement, because you can. And again, if you've made an agreement in the past that now no longer works for you, it's okay to say to the other party or parties, I need to renegotiate that agreement now. I need to check in with you. I'm no longer a wholehearted yes to this. I need to renegotiate this in a way that is going to work for all of us. And if you can't make an agreement, well, then you can't have an expectation somebody is going to do what you're telling them to do or what you want from them. And that's why it's so important to make these agreements. And if it gets to the point that, if they can't be in agreement with this, then at least you know where they stand. And if it's something that's so big that they can't work for you anymore, you both know where you stand, rather than having this animosity and this unclearness and this disagreement. So to wrap up, friends, the difference between an agreement and an expectation is in an agreement, all parties have consented to this agreement clearly. So that's in writing or that's verbally. Everybody is in and everybody is clear about what you've agreed to. An expectation is that thing that we think somebody's going to do something. We think they're going to do something because of something that we've agreed in the past, or we think they're going to do something because that's our expectation of people's behavior in our workplace. So be very clear on this. I really encourage you, once you start getting into this and making clear agreements with people, you'll see all areas of your life become much less stressful, because you know where you stand, you know where they stand, you know what's going to be able to be done, when it's going to be done by, who's going to do it, what it's going to look like. Just be as specific as you can in these agreements. If you like these videos that we make, we really appreciate that you subscribe to us on YouTube. Find us on any of your favorite podcast platforms. Like what we do, share what we do, and we especially love when you comment. So comment on YouTube, comment here on Facebook, or any of our podcasts, send us a message, Instagram, comment below. It really helps us. We want to know what you want, and it really helps us get feedback from you about what we're doing here. Thanks, friends, and have a great week.